I would like to welcome you back to the She's Happily Divorced podcast. My name is Portia. You can call me Poe. I am your host. I would first of all like to thank you for being here with me. You could be anywhere in the world. You chose to be here with me. I absolutely appreciate you. Wherever you are watching, wherever you are listening, subscribe. Go ahead and click a like. I would love for you to interact with this podcast. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings. Maybe you want to share some stories with me. My inbox is open. And that email address is actually frombumbledwithlove@gmail.com. So you can email me there. I'll be happy to share anything you want me to share. I'll be happy to respond, share with you my experiences. But I want to welcome you to this episode number 2 of She's Happily Divorced podcast. Now, the premise of this podcast is to get better, not bitter. Today's topic is the day everything changed. Whew. So I'm going to take a deep breath and here we go. So the day everything changed for me, the day my reality really slapped me right in the face, was returning home from Vegas from about a 7-day trip to convention with an MLM company that I'm a part of, celebrating, having fun. It wasn't all fun. There were some things going on in my personal life there, but returning home from the trip to an empty apartment, that was the day that I realized, oh my God, I am getting a divorce. So in this podcast episode, we'll focus mainly on the last 6 to 7 months of my marriage, but I'll give you a little bit of background as well. So my ex-husband and I met initially when we were 9 years old at the Boys and Girl Club, just having fun and being little kids. And then we were reintroduced at 15 years old. So our life experience together expands from 15 to 34. I actually spent my 35th birthday going through my divorce. So 15 to 24, it was on and off, but we were young. The ways that we learned how to love each other were very immature. It was like, you sneeze today, let's break up. Or you got on the wrong color, like little things like that. That we would kind of break up and need to separate. And then no matter what happened, there was always this pull that will pull us back together. So around 24 years old, there was no more off. At 23, the way that I was introduced to therapy actually was with my ex-husband saying, hey, you get fixed, that fixes us. So apparently I was the only person who had problems, baby. And I will say at 23, accepting that challenge to go to therapy was very much what I needed to start my healing journey and to grow. I am a purpose-driven person. I always want to grow. I always want to be the best version of myself. And I know at that time I absolutely was not. A lot of me was caught in this cycle of trauma that I had experienced throughout most of my childhood, from 5 to my almost early teens. There was the trauma of abandonment, growing up without a father. There was the trauma of growing up in an abusive household, verbally, physically, mentally. And I take nothing away from my mom. She was a single parent. She was doing the absolute best with the tools she had available to her. I fault her for nothing. This is just my reality. Also for him, he grew up in a middle class environment with a police officer as a father, and that dynamic there, and from what I've learned about the dynamic, it was the healthiest dynamic. So you have these two really young people trying to navigate life, trying to experience love, and all we have are the tools that we have available to us, which is from a broken home, a lot of trauma, and then from a home that seems a little bit more stable on the outside, but it's going through inner turmoil as well. So those are the tools that we had available to us to come to and to get to, experience this life together. So he and I married at 29 years old. I can say now, looking back, and all the things that I've learned through my divorce, that it was absolutely not the best decision that we got married. I do not believe if my mom was living, she would have okayed that. And there's a lot that I won't talk about, but just learning what I know now. And that's just something that you have to live with. I was clinging to the last bit of family that I had left, the last bit of family that I knew. And I absolutely wanted my marriage to work. I will say our first year and a half of marriage was great. We had just came off the heels of counseling. We had learned some new tools. We were implementing those tools. So the first year and a half of marriage, it was absolutely amazing. When we would have a disagreement, we were able to use those tools and come back to an understanding really, really fast. It doesn't mean that we see eye to eye on everything, but it means that we get to resolve much quickly. So that first year of marriage was absolutely, it was great. It was great. Great learning experience. After the first year of marriage, and unfortunately, once the realization of there isn't going to be a financial gain from her mother passing away, there absolutely wasn't any insurance. It settled, and he verbalized, hey, when we were going through whatever, this is who I am. You knew who I was before you got married. So that was the environment that I was in. So because of the trauma that I grew up with, I learned how to exist with little fires around me all the time. I was used to putting out fires. I was used to pivoting. I'm used to being the good girl. I'm used to being the loyal one. I'm going to stay. I'm going to fix things. And that's just kind of the way it was. And that was the dynamic of our marriage. I will say that I learned throughout that experience how to simply learn how to be pretty and be quiet. I learned my role. That was my role. And there were times within the marriage, of course, behind closed doors that, we would have disagreements and arguments, and then there would be explosiveness. But for the most part, I learned how to just kind of keep my feelings to myself because, who cares, And that's a sad place for anybody to be in. And if you're in that space, my heart definitely goes out to you. I feel like a woman's power is in her silence, but to be silenced, to be shown and told that your feelings, your emotions don't matter, is an absolute devastating place to be in. And I don't wish that on anyone. So from there, we'll fast forward to, the last 6-7 months of my marriage. So there was just a lot going on. Like I've stated before, there was a lot of me pivoting. At this time, his habits began to change. He was hanging out a lot more with one of his single friends who was involved in, cheating on the woman that he was with over and over and over again. They had a volatile situation. It was to the point where my now ex-husband would wake up or get a phone call in the middle of the night, and this person would be calling for him to be a witness because the girlfriend was tearing some things up because, she had caught him in a lie, or she found a pair of underwear or something like that, and he's going to be the mediator. So it's kind of like, why is that a part of our lives at all? Why do you need to go and do that? But this is the way it's trending at this point. So he's hanging out with this person a lot more, drinking a little bit more, going to do this and that or whatever, I didn't ask a whole lot of questions. And that's on me. I didn't ask a whole lot of questions. I feel, and I still feel this way now, you have to do whatever it is that you need to do and whatever it is that you're comfortable with looking at yourself in the mirror to do. So I can't tell you everything that they were doing. That was up to them. I was at home, either in my bed asleep, or I was at home watching TV. I was where I was supposed to be, and he was where he felt he needed to be, or where he was supposed to be. So, with all these changes going on, I remember asking during this time, because it simply felt like, and this is the last 6 or 7 months of marriage. So, and this has been on and off, but we're talking specifically about this time frame. But during this time frame, it just kind of felt like I couldn't do anything right. At this time, I began to do self-love coaching. I become a certified self-love coach, but I actually started the program because I remember one day, I'll never forget, I was in the shower and I was like, God, why don't he love me? Like, I keep trying this. He'll tell me to fix this and I'll fix this. It's never him with the issues. It's always me. I'm the one who's always changing. I'm the one who's always auditioning for his love. Why don't he love me? And I had asked myself this several times throughout the relationship, but this particular night, I heard just my inner echo back at me. Why don't you love yourself? And I was like, And I had to sit with that. And during this time, I found this self-love coaching program. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I'm not sure if I want to be a self-love coach yet, but I know for sure I want to go through the certification, see what it has to offer, get back to me, and learn how to love me. I've always been the girl that everyone is attracted to because of my light, because of my inner, whether I knew it or not, right? Because of my inner. Yeah, most people aren't responsible with that. And I need to figure out how to be responsible with that. I need to figure out how to love myself. I need to figure out, like, the thing that drew him in the first place, like, get back to the things that made me me. So going through the self-love coaching program was a really big part of that. He did not like that at all. I'm beginning to change. I'm beginning to want more. I'm beginning to ask, more questions. I'm beginning to remember, hey, when we first started this thing, after my mom passed away, after we went through therapy and everything, like, it seemed really, really loving and hopeful. And things have taken such a turn. I would like for us to get back to a healthy space. I would like for us to get back to a space of where not only am I loving myself, like, because I haven't been in this space in a really long time, you loving yourself, and us being, one whole unit, like. And I remember asking during this time as well, do you want a divorce? And if you do want a divorce, then we can sit down amicably and we can talk about how to divide the things that we have. And, like, I'll be okay with that if that's what you want. Like, I won't be okay for a while, but I'll be okay with that. No, that's not what I want. I want my wife. Like, what do you mean? Okay, well, because it seems like whatever I'm doing or trying, you're constantly telling it's me. Your habits and things have changed, but it's just me. I'll take that. I'll take accountability for that. I think we need to get back into therapy. And not only do we need to do couples therapy, but then individual therapy as well. Because obviously there's a disconnect. If you're saying that you want to continue our marriage, and in my heart of hearts, I want to continue our marriage, then we need to figure out what it is that's going on and how we're missing each other, like what's going on. So we start therapy during this time. And in therapy, things do come up. I'm going to therapy individually. We're going to therapy together. During this time of self-love coaching, I say, hey, I want to actually give it a shot of being a full-time coach and being full-time in my MLM business. And there was nothing that he liked about that plan at all. Like, we're talking about this in therapy. And what comes up in therapy, it's like, well, the root of it is she's not doing what I want her to do when I want her to do it and how I want her to do it. And I remember the therapist saying to him, your wife has changed so much. And she's trying so much to meet you where you are. Why aren't you accepting of that? And he does this thing when you say something that makes sense to him. He gets quiet. Or when you speak a truth, he gets quiet. So you fast forward to the day that I come home from Vegas. To an empty apartment. The last thing that happened before I left for Vegas, because like I told you guys, we were in therapy individually and then couples. He was actually in individual therapy for just 2 sessions. And it was during COVID, so we were working from home. And I remember his second session. You try not to listen, but we're there in the house together. I'm in the back, he's in the front. And I'm walking out to use the hall restroom. And his therapist says to him, because you cannot focus on you, and this is the second session where you just talk about Porsche. You don't want to actually talk about you and what's going on with you. I suggest you guys just keep doing the couples therapy, and I won't continue to take your money if you're not going to focus on you and your healing. So the last thing that said to me, because we've gone through therapy now for maybe 3 months. And the last thing that said to me, leaving out for Vegas, is I want my wife. I want my marriage. We're going to be okay. We're going to figure this thing out. And I left to go to Vegas on a very high note. Without my ring, because he said I lost it. That's another story another day. But we kind of chit-chatted in Vegas. The first 2-3 days, like, things were fine. Like, we were still on that high note, and then communication stopped in Vegas. And I remember my sister-in-law saying to me, that's not like him to be quiet. I feel like you're going to walk into a surprise. And I was like, huh? She's like, I feel like you're going to walk into a surprise. She said, because it's not like him to be quiet. He always has to get the last word, which is true. So we're wrapping up our trip. Her husband, his brother, comes to get us from the airport. I get to our apartment. I can't get in. I have to go down and ask the friend that he's been spending all this time with, hey, can you call him? Because I'm blocked. I realize at this point I'm blocked. My phone calls aren't going through. My text messages aren't going through. can you get the code to the door? He's changed the code to the door. I need to get into the apartment. Like, it's been a really long week. We've had a lot of activities. I just want to rest. And still, all of this, like, it's not even registering that he's not there or something, right? And I get into the apartment and just everything is like gone. Like, hindsight will teach me to ask more questions. But also, full circle moment would teach me that those were just material things that were taken. I was left with the greatest gift of all, me, my life, right? And I'm doing this complete full circle moment. I was left with the greatest gift that God has ever given me, which is me. I didn't know that then. It took me a long time to get to this space. But my God. So walking into the apartment and seeing that, I remember screaming. I let out a wail, like unlike anything I have ever heard before. It cut even deeper because I've had something similar happen when I was younger. And also because I grew up with abandonment issues. And he knew this. So it was like, oh snot. I am getting a divorce. No matter how many times we've been apart, no matter how many times I've given chances, things have gotten progressively worse each time. And this was like the worst of the worst. Being left without a pot to piss in, without a plan. I had just came back to Vegas. Now remember, I told you over this last 6 or 7 months, we're going to therapy and everything. But I asked you if you wanted a divorce. And they would give us an opportunity to handle things amicably. But that's not what you wanted. What you wanted was to destroy me. And these actions proved it. Okay, now what do? I kind of got to figure this thing out. And maybe in life I'm still figuring a whole lot of things out. But I am so grateful. My God. But at that moment, I knew that I was getting a divorce. Like, how do you come back from that? I don't know. I was asked to come back from that. I was told, hey, I was only teaching you a lesson. You needed to pipe down a little bit. You were feeling yourself too much. You come back to me, we can just do things the way that I say we do things. You don't question anything. And we'll be good. That was the offer. I'm going to tell you that I had to find the courage to keep moving forward. Going through my divorce, I was still married. And that's the way I felt about it. And I was told differently by several friends. But I was still married. So I was going to act as a married woman. And there is no dating. I'm being offered to be flown in this place. And you could come and hang out with me here. And hey, I love to pick up the pieces with you. Yeah. I need to figure out my life. And at this moment, I'm still married. At this moment, there was still dialogue. We're going through a divorce. Not immediately, but eventually. There's dialogue. I want to get this settled as quickly as possible. There was a little bit, like 1% of me that wanted to take things to court and fight, but 99% of me just wanted it to be over and to heal. Also, I was fighting for my life. There were suicidal ideations the entire time. I could end all of this now. I got into therapy immediately. Like the inner sassy was like, there is no way you going back, mama. What? What? Left you without a pot to piss and we finna go back? But also there was the fear of, this is the crazy that I have known for all these years. What do I do without this? I'm scared. Who wants me after this? What is my plan and my purpose? Their emails, their prayers, like from him and from me and us trying to figure things out, and no, stop the divorce. Like, sorry, just kidding. I was just trying to teach you a lesson. Come on back, girl. There's seriously the thought of, I could just go, at least I know what I'm getting. At least I know the type of crazy I'm getting here. But then there's I don't like to say bravery because I didn't feel brave. But then there's the bravery of continuing to move forward towards the unknown. There's implementing those tools that I learned in self-love coaching. Like, you're going to be okay. You just have to keep moving forward. There are a lot of times I didn't want to. But there was a bit of inner voice that said, you survived 100% of your worst days. You survived the loss of your mother. You are going to be okay. And then that started my journey of recovery. So again, if you need a fresh start, I'm going to go ahead and plug it. Check out my stand store and get that and some resources that I use. Therapy was one of the biggest resources, reading, journaling. But out of all the fears, and I would just have to sit with them. I'm a sit with it girl. I'm a yogi. I'm a sit with the girl. So I would just have to sit with those fears and that negative self-talk and bring myself out of that situation. And I did not do it alone. I have a support system, but also God. There is no reason that I'm sitting here today other than God. I have been a fool in more than one way. I heard it said God protects babies and fools. Not so much a baby anymore, even though one of my nicknames is baby girl. I have been a fool. And when the word says all things are working for my good, all things are working for your good, my God, it eventually works out. There's so much for me to grow and to learn, right? I'm always growing. I'm always learning. My goal is to always be the best version of myself. But whenever I need a reminder of who I am, I think about the day that I put my life completely in somebody else's hands. the day that I said completely that I wanted to be a wife, and I was not perfect at it. I was a good wife. Whenever I need strength and a reminder of who I am when things get hard, I think about me walking into that empty apartment. I think about me going through therapy and counseling with someone who was formulating a plan the entire time. The audaciousness of you to sit in therapy and not be honest with your intentions at all. Because you had a plan to teach a lesson. So whenever I doubt who I am presently, I think about that lesson that was taught. That there is joy on the other side. It doesn't matter how many tears you cry. There is joy on the other side. And God is just not my God. God is everybody's God. We all will be dealt with accordingly. And I could tell you, maybe this was my biggest karmic relationship. There were a lot of lessons that I needed to learn and grow in, especially when it came to my self-worth. And I'm still dealing with certain things. I'm still growing in that area. But my God, when I say the day that everything changed, it was absolutely the day that everything changed, because everything needed to change. If I'm ever going to reach my full potential, no matter how devastating it was, that needed to happen. And for that, I am grateful. So maybe you don't feel it right now, but eventually you will. Eventually you get to the other side of the grief. It's not linear, just like happiness isn't linear. But you are absolutely worth your birthright, which is healing. It would be great if we could all exist without the traumas and the hurts and the ups and the downs and the rounds, right? It would be all great if we could just go through things without, just simply without. But where is the fun in that? Where's the joy in that? There's a message in your mess. When you get to the other side of what you're enduring, there's a graciousness, there's a gratefulness. You know true happiness because you've had to experience sadness. I know true joy because I have been knocked down a peg or 15. So, what I want to leave you with is, don't be me, boo-boo. Don't ignore red flags. I'm a person who believes in complete healing and restoration of relationships. I believe that you can be in the worst points in a relationship and God can transform it. However, a relationship is a dance of two, or however many people are in their relationship. It's a dance of vulnerability. Both people have to have the intention of healing and moving forward together. It cannot be one-sided. One person cannot carry the relationship of two. We both have to be in it to win it. And if we are, And I believe that God can put his foot down up in something, honey, and shake it and rub it together, and you can come out on the other side of that. So restoration is absolutely possible. It takes all of you involved in the relationship to want their restoration. It takes all of you involved in that relationship to speak truth and honesty and to be vulnerable. Not speak one thing, but your attention to something different. It's not fair to the other people in the relationship. It actually pretty sucks. And it actually makes you a coward. Stand in your truth. I would tell you to ask more questions. And even with saying that, people will either be honest with you or not. We've heard it said that people show up as their absolute best selves. People can put on a performance, and it turns out to be something different. And when I say don't be like me, I love who I am. But when I say that, especially now, maybe I suggest that you not be as forgiving. I mean, that's not really true to who I am. But in being able to hold the space for others, but not having that space held for me, I'll just tell you to question and pause. Would this person give you another chance? Would this person be so forgiving towards you for these actions? And if the answer is truly no, then maybe we have to make the hard decision to walk away. I will tell you my trauma, and I'm really unlearning a lot of things, even now to this day, revisiting things, unlearning, revisit, unpack, unlearn, That has not been one of my strong suits, walking away. I will forgive, pivot, forgive, pivot. Let's try again. And the experience has been, I'll do this until I guess you want me to hate you. So here we are. And I never give anybody that much power. I don't hate anyone. Even with all that I've been through, I don't hate anyone. I'll just tell you to sit with things and question it. And like I said, if the truth is that that person wouldn't be so forgiving towards you, maybe you shouldn't be for them either. Maybe you just have to be the one that got away. So I want to invite you, darlings, to visit that stand store. I also want to invite you to subscribe to this podcast. The premise is to get better, not bitter. And I just want to invite you to your own personal healing journey. There is so much life to be lived. And I know in the year of our Lord of 2025, there's a lot going on in the world today. But you are absolutely worth your own healing journey. You're absolutely worth being chosen. And like truly chosen. As a woman who's been picked, there's a part of me that still looks forward to the day of being completely chosen. I am not perfect by any long shot. And I understand that people aren't. But when I choose, I choose. I choose that person. I choose to navigate life with that person. And maybe that hasn't gotten me the best results, but maybe it has, because the ultimate result of all of this has been reconnecting and restoring my self-worth and the love that I have for myself. Those things that make me special and that make me unique. And I invite you to go on that journey as well. So maybe you're going through a divorce or a breakup, and you've had your day that everything changed. But it does not have to change for bitterness. It does not have to change for the worse. You do not have to stay stuck in the calamity of the situation. You can rise above. It's simply going to take some work, and it takes time. And I encourage you to give yourself that time, that grace, and just the opportunity to experience the life that you truly want to experience for yourself. So thank you so much for tuning in to She's Happily Divorced podcast. I look forward to being back here with you next week. We have some good things coming from the podcast, boo-boo, and I'm very, very excited about that. Remember, get better, not bitter. Don't allow anybody to steal your joy. Hey, you've had this much of my life, and I was sad for this amount of time, and maybe I'm sad for a little bit more, but they do not get the final stamp of keeping you stuck down in a rut. You're going to experience happiness, joy, laughter. Go hang out with your girls. Do whatever it is that you need to do to be the full expression of yourself, and make no apologies for it. I spent a lot of my life apologizing for who I am. And I'm going to say, shame on you. If you go through all the efforts of getting with someone only to try to change them into who you want them to be, shame on you. Leave them be. So until next time, my name is Porsche. You can call me Po. I will put everything down in the show notes. I look forward to being back here with you with another episode next week. Enjoy your day.